Well, just as Senator Sonny said, and led by Senator Leila, we did file
Si
that
Senator.
minority resolution because, as you mentioned earlier, also,
Hindi ko
Ms. Ruth,
naririnig
we
si
don't
Senator.
have an agreement regulating the
Hindi ko
visit or
Ah,
landing, let alone landing, of
okay.
foreign or Chinese military aircraft. And there was irregularity apparently in those reported landings because, yeah, at the outset, even the armed forces of the Philippines said they didn't know about it. So they were not the ones who knew of it or authorized it. There was a statement from Malacanang that an office of theirs received, processed, and cleared the landing. Pero hindi malinaw na dumaan ito sa anumang existing agreement between the Philippines and China. And most worryingly, mismong yung ating defense and military establishment ay hindi alam ito at wala silang kinalaman sa paglapag nito. I mean, we want to find out, is the president's mere say-so that such foreign military aircraft can land enough to allow this, lalo na, Ms. Ruth, given our constitutional prohibition against the use of our country by foreign military bases, personnel, and equipment or craft such as this Chinese military plane. I'm sorry, Ms. Ruth, but great part of your question was very choppy on my audio, but I did catch part of it. And ang pagkakaiba po nitong paglapag ng Chinese military plane, not just once, possibly not just twice, possibly more often, as Senator Sonny Trillanes has said, pagkakaiba nito sa paglapag at pagdaong ng ibang mga eroplano o barko kamakailan lamang ay apparently our country has agreements governing the visit of those other countries' military craft to our country. We don't have a single agreement with China governing the reported landings of that or of those Chinese military planes at the Davao City International Airport. And we know, Ms. Ruth, no, sa usapin ng foreign policy, those official documents between two countries and two peoples are very important to set the tone of our foreign policy, to send clear messages or signals to the public kung ano ba ang foreign policy and strategy natin. Lalo na in this particular case, with that particular nation, China, who was the subject of our victorious case at the arbitral tribunal at The Hague on the West Philippine Sea, but which is now China, which is now heavily militarizing not just the West Philippine Sea but the whole South China Sea, and which is also um, going to be allegedly the source of a lot of incoming loans into our economy, loans which terms we also need to be aware of completely the details of, so that we aren't caught in a new kind of debt trap diplomacy by China towards developing nations such as ours. Well, definitely, Ms. Ruth, dapat may tamang proseso. But unfortunately, the infrastructure for that process isn't even set up yet. We don't have an agreement between the Philippines and China allowing and governing the landing of such Chinese military craft in any of our airports. There aren't the identified agencies which are in charge of running and managing that process. Regardless of what the good secretary said at the outset, the armed forces itself said they didn't know about the landing of the Chinese military plane at the Davao City International Airport. At sa ganyang mga usapin, dapat naman siguro yung defense at military officials natin ang pinaka nakakaalam at nangangasiwas sa ganyang mga gawain. It was only an office in the a unit of the office of the president which said that they received, processed, and cleared the landing of that plane, but that can't be enough. It's not just civilian offices of government that must manage or regulate such landings, and that very process has to be designed and enshrined or embedded in an agreement. There is no agreement, and the good secretary knows that. Well, in the context, Ms. Ruth, of governments or the administration's opaqueness about its foreign policy with China, its unwillingness until now to file formal diplomatic protests, not even a note verbal, to China or before the United Nations about Chinese harassment of Filipino fisherfolk, its militarization even of our exclusive economic zone, our part of the South China Sea, which is the West Philippine Sea, yung pagsira nila sa mga bahura natin, giant clams and other important and endangered marine species, is gives rise to the suspicion that there isn't any effort, serious effort, to enshrine our foreign policy and foreign policy strategies vis-a-vis that very important nation, China, in our region. But instead, idinadaan lahat sa personalan. Imagine for a foreign military plane not governed by any executive agreement with that plane's country to be allowed to land at one of our important airports without the knowledge of the most important stakeholders who should be identified by such an agreement and should be in charge of such landings, so specifically the DND and the AFP. And then just for a unit of the Office of the President to say that they were the ones, or he was the one, this alter ego of the President was the one who cleared the landing of the plane. That's highly irregular and is not the action of a responsible administration taking seriously its foreign policy responsibilities. Oo, ang Pangulo nga yung chief architect ng foreign policy at ang bawat salita niya, whether about foreign or domestic policy, precisely takes on the nature of policy. He most of all should know that we need agreements between our country and others, and we need the stakeholders on our side of the agreements to be properly identified, mandated, and respected to carry out their mandates. Hindi pwedeng parang personal na pakiusap lang or idadaan sa ibang channels, pati civilian channels, ang ganyang usapin na foreign military plane ang nakasalang.
Okay, ma'am, would you know yung status nito? Has this been referred to the committee or kailan niyo po planong mag-conduct ng hearings?
Actually, Ms. Ruth, this was just the latest in a series of resolutions being filed regarding foreign policy incidents between the Philippines and China. Simula pa nung taong 2016. Mula noon, nag-file si Senator Bam, nag-file din sina Senator Leila and Senator Sunny. Ms. Ruth, this was just the latest in a series of resolutions being filed regarding foreign policy incidents between the Philippines and China. Simula pa nung taong 2016. Mula noon, nag-file si Senator Bam, nag-file din sina Senator Leila and Senator Sunny Trillanes. I also filed a resolution at nitong huli, nanguna nga ulit si Senator Leila sa amin sa minority para mag-file kami nitong latest resolution. Yesterday, my office also organized Kasarinlan, a foreign policy forum, at para i-reiterate din yung pangangailangan ng isang foreign policy audit ng ating gobyerno, lalo na kaugnay ng bansang China. And this was timed, Ms. Ruth, because on Thursday, July 12th, we will be commemorating the second anniversary of our historic victory. In that case, we filed before the arbitral tribunal at The Hague. And I'm very glad na kamakailan lamang both Senators Loren and Greg Onasan, respectively chairs of the Senate Committees on Foreign Relations and National Defense, expressed their willingness publicly to finally hear our resolutions. Hiling din po namin yan sa minority sa pamamagitan ni Minority Leader Frank Drilon na ipakiusap lalo na kay Senate President Tito na idinig na po sana namin sa Senado itong mga resolusyon dahil these are very timely with the upcoming second anniversary of the Hague ruling, and because hindi talaga humuhupa yung aggressive actions ng China sa West Philippine Sea, pati sa ating exclusive economic zones, and there has not yet been a clear, sustained, and strong response from our government. Sabi po ni Secretary Cayetano, 50 to 100 diplomatic protests na daw ang nagawa nila. What are these? At ano yung mga results that these have actually generated?